Of course there's a spirit more American than bourbon or rye. As a matter of fact, it's older than the US by nearly a century. Applejack is just a type of apple brandy. Some expressions might be 100% apple brandy, while blended versions can be beefed up with up to 80% of other neutral spirits. Sometimes it's called Jersey Lightning, which speaks to how good New Jersey is at making it and how dangerous it used to be to drink. It doesn't put on airs like its French sibling Calvados, but it can be just as tasty. The main distiller in the US is Laird's Applejack, a family-run operation going back to 1698. It's so good they had to give George Washington the recipe in 1780 so he could make it himself. And by make it himself, we know what that means. Fun fact, President George Washington used to take his enslaved people from Pennsylvania to Virginia every 6 months so that they wouldn't automatically become free. Anyway, Applejack was historically made by a process called jacking. You take the cider made from all the basically inedible apples and throw it in a barrel, or still if you had one. Then you would leave it outside in the winter. As it would freeze, you'd scoop out the ice on top, gradually removing water, until you get an American brandy. Now you can probably guess this wasn't a foolproof process. Applejack could have enough dangerous chemicals still in it, like acetone, that it might blind you or, make your kidneys shut down. Not ideal. Imagine your kidneys shutting down in a pre-penicillin world. The medicine and the cocktail. Dangerous Applejack was the scourge of the temperance movement. So much so that many of the cider orchards were razed to the ground during Prohibition. It's taken a century for Laird's to get some competition again, but the apple biodiversity we had was lost. Luckily, Applejack has been making a comeback, albeit with eating apples. Audrey Saunders helped bring Laird's back from the brink in the early 2000s, and the sky's been the limit ever since then. The Black-owned Holman distillery actually uses the jacking method in its Apple John brandy, but there's modern safeguards. More distilleries have popped up in the Northeast and Appalachia. There's even a few on the West Coast. Now that we don't have to worry about blindness, we can see and taste delicious pre-Prohibition drinks. If you have an old cocktail book, you know it's always Applejack this, Applejack that. While now, you have options. So make something cool like the Jack Rose. This is probably the only time I'll ever say this earnestly, but it's what the Founding Fathers would have wanted. Cheers. This episode is brought to you by the War on Christmas. We're winning. Hold, comrades. Hold.